welcome to the Spawn Chunks, episode number 344, recorded April 7th, 2025. It's a Monday, which is when we always publish new shows. If you are new to the show, this is all about Minecraft. You can find the podcast on your favorite podcasting app, as well as a video version on YouTube. If you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing wherever you're listening or watching. My name is Joel Duggan, and joining me, as always, is my friend Jonny, otherwise known on the internet as Pixel Riffs. Hello, sir.
Hello! We've been chatting it up about some of the stuff we're going to be talking about later, stuff like the Minecraft movie and its impact on our podcast. We've also been talking about Joel's new Mac specs and the opportunity to respec your PC every once in a while, something that we're going to have to keep up with a little bit more now that Minecraft is getting occasional graphics updates and things like that. That's all in the render distance, which is the extended version of our podcast. You can find that by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/thespawnchunks. Supporting the show at any tier gets you invited to our Discord. You get a longer version of the show with a bit more pre-show and post-show chat each week. Usually Joel and I talking about the other stuff that's impacting our lives, both in gaming and elsewhere. So if you're interested in that and other patron events like our monthly Hangouts, where you get to have your say about what you've been doing in Minecraft that month, and stuff like our quarterly Hangouts, where we go into the behind-the-scenes details of how the podcast is run, that's all at patreon.com/thespawnchunks.
So what have you been up to in Minecraft over the week, my friend?
Well, Survival Guide has actually taken a bit of a back seat this week for a couple of reasons. The first being that the April Fool's snapshot this year has its hooks in me. It's obviously been about a week since that was released, since April 1st was a little while ago. I am planning on doing more or less a full week's worth of videos just on the Craft Mine update. We'll get into that a little bit later, and I'm sure I'll report back in more detail on a future episode of the show once all of that has been recorded. But oh boy, it's a fun one. It kind of rivals one block at a time for me in terms of having completely changed the way the game is played. So more about that in the news. The other reason is that Misadventures SMP is going really strong, and I have just completed my first build, my first proper build anyway. I was decorating the interior of an apartment in the town of Maryport before that. That was a pre-build before the server officially launched, and now we're post-launch and we can go out into the wilderness and buy plots of land in order to create our own little features of the world that are going to be maybe turned by the admin team into something different, like a dungeon or a place populated by NPCs or something like that. I have designed a sky pirate roost up on a hillside west of the central town, and I really love the location. That's the thing that I was drawn to the most. There are some really nice custom terrain valleys and mountains around there. A big mountain that was described to me as looking kind of like a goat horn, and so I went looking for that and then found this mountain beyond that I thought I'd like the view. So I set up a sky pirate den basically on top of here. So far it's just the exterior, has a telescope observatory. Is it a telescope or is it a cannon? You can kind of decide for yourselves. It's got a sort of raised section of the roof for like a little kind of loft space area, and doesn't have a whole lot on the interior yet. Since the screenshots, I'm posting these screenshots primarily because they are slightly clearer to see the build. I built a pirate ship in front of it with the sails kind of furled, and I'm kind of considering moving that one around. I think it gets a little bit too in the way of a shot of the build, but moving it is going to require me purchasing more land from the server, which I need to do with currency that I got to build up from running dungeons and things like that. So yeah, it's been fun on this server. A lot of people active right now, a lot of very, very talented builders, and a lot of little custom dungeons to go and find and run through in search of coins. I've been exploring the Lost Crypt dungeon, which was designed by Mythical Sausage, and there's lots of little Empires SMP Easter eggs in there, so it's been really fun finding all of those.
This looks really cool, man, and I'm curious, what are the materials that you used in the walls? Because, I mean, granted, I know you've got some shaders on in the screenshots, but like, it looks almost green.
Yeah, so a lot of this is bamboo. The large yellow section of the wall is bamboo planks and mosaic bamboo, which is a block I hadn't used before this. So that's one of the reasons I chose it. I was really excited to build with warmer colors. Yeah. I wanted this to feel like an eclectic mix of materials that like airborne pirates might go and salvage from distant lands. And the area here, while it's not strictly speaking a spruce biome, the terrain generation has left a lot of spruce trees there. So I wanted something that stood out from that, had a lot of contrast, and used one of the primary materials I plan on building with, which is red sandstone. Since we have a resource world that resets every day, there's a lot more opportunity to go and steal all of the resources from some of the rarer biomes in the world and not have to worry about stripping those completely for people who might want to come and get some of their own later. So yesterday, in fact, we had a spawn that was almost dead center of a Badlands biome. So I've been going out there, grabbing as much red sand as I can, converting it all into red sandstone, and then teleporting myself back to the overworld where the RPG stuff takes place so I can stash it. And my hope is to build ancient ruins that aren't made of traditional-looking grey stone. I want to make ruins that feel like they are from a bygone civilization that has a lot more of that copper tone stuff in it. So copper blocks are obviously going to feature, but red sandstone is going to feature heavily. I wanted to build with as little grey as possible in this starter build, even though the tower there is made of stone. I've worked in a bunch of the mossy palette to try and temper that slightly. And then the rest of the build is bamboo, mangrove, dark oak, red sandstone, like all of the kind of warmer tone materials that I could find.
As someone that's tried to get away from gray and brown later on in the design of Westhill with the west side of town, it is challenging. Minecraft really leans hard into the gray and brown. So when you make that decision, and you've done it very well, it's hard. Like it's something that you have to really focus on and get used to and think outside the box to try and get those new colors in. And I love the idea of the red sandstone and the resetting resource world because especially if you've lucked out. My question was going to be like, have you lucked out and had like a giant red sandstone, crop? And it sounds like the most recent spawn. It's not only do you not have to travel very far, but it seems like there's a lot there for you too, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of training myself to remember that you can get a lot of red sand out of the Badlands, even though it's just one layer on the top of the surface. You can get a really decent amount. And obviously the problem with that in a long-term world is that it's a finite resource, ultimately. You can't get much of it from the Wandering Trader. It'll make about 5 or 6 blocks of red sandstone if that's what you want. So, yeah, the opportunity to build with it here has been one I wanted to take. And I'm not sure if everyone else is thinking that way as far as, like, the mechanics of the game go. A lot of them are coming in with a theme first and then deciding what materials go along with that, whereas I've gone, what material do I want that I don't normally have access to, and then what theme will work for that material. So yeah, I'm approaching it sort of backwards compared to some of the other folks on this server, but I like there being a variety of approaches, so I'm really happy with this so far. I'm going to be building more in this style as far as the actual settlements go, and then the ruins are going to be on a set of floating islands above this valley to preserve the natural beauty of the terrain, but also get something in there that could be a parkour challenge or something like that, something that I can turn into a mini game that will give folks on the server something fun to do.
So for me on the Citadel, I still have not updated to 1.21.5. 2 bottlenecks, as a matter of fact. We had to wait for the mods and stuff that we use to update, and I think the majority of them have updated now. But the other thing that I ran into was a change that was unknown to me until I went to go and do it, which is that my Minecraft server provider now has reduced the amount of storage that they give to the base tier.
Right.
And it's not enough to back up the Citadel. So the automatic backup that I had set up for months, years, like I think it was every evening at midnight, it would just create a backup. Now, the next day, it would replace the old backup, but you always had an up-to-date backup. That hasn't been working for months, apparently. Would have been nice to know, considering the time that I've put into the Citadel, as well as my server mates. So in order to upgrade that and make a backup, I have to pay for extra storage. It's not a lot. It's not even as much as a cup of coffee. But the principle of the thing kind of threw me for a second. And when I had the time to actually sit down and do the backup, I was like, oh, wait, now I have to navigate like which upgrade is going to be best for me, because there's different options. So like, can I do more than one backup with just a single upgrade? Do I have to go to the next tier? So all of a sudden I had to do some extra research. So I haven't updated the Citadel yet. It's happening this week though, because I'm feeling behind. So what I did was I logged in and I continued working on the replacement of the tables and chairs in Westhill with the Tables and Chairs 2 data pack. And for folks that are catching up, the Tables and Chairs data pack was something that was affected by the way that data packs work when Minecraft changed a couple of updates ago. And so I've not been able to use it since. So I have to go around and remove the old tables and replace them with the new ones. Now, the good news there is that there is a bit of a clue when I'm removing an old table. If it's an oak trapdoor I'm removing, then it was an oak table that was there. And so I know what to place there. So it's really not difficult. It's a little time consuming, especially when you are in the fancier part of town, which is where I've moved. So I've finished the main street. I finished outside of West Hill to the north, and I finished the market area, the east side of West Hill. But now I'm on to the west side. And the west side has bigger homes, different buildings. It's got an inn. It's got mansions. It has barracks and things for soldiers and stuff near the keep. So there's a lot more tables and chairs per building. So it's taking a little bit of time. So I got the main road mostly finished down to the southern square. And so the southern square and the western exit. And then, of course, the back road, which has all the fancy houses on it, is going to happen after that. So there's probably another stream or two of me replacing the tables and chairs. They do look good, and they do add a lot, especially when you're in something crowded like a pub. It really helps, I think, in Minecraft to have these little data pack add-ons that give you tables and chairs that you can put candles on, that you can put flower pots on that kind of look like beer steins. We use the data pack from Vanilla Tweaks for mini blocks. And so a barrel as a mini block kind of looks like a small keg of ale. So having all of those things around on tables or on the bar in the pub makes a lot of sense, and it really adds to the ambience because there's no villagers or no other movement or people around, right? It's just kind of like a still, almost like a miniature build, like you're looking at it like a train miniature or something like that. So that's where I am with everything in West Hill. It's just adding tables and chairs and adding some details, and I haven't changed anything. I've been doing my best not to like revisit and redo stuff and make more work for myself. I think maybe once or twice I've added something on a table that was just empty. But other than that, we're just kind of going through and replacing what was with the new version. And it all seems to be pretty stable. Seems to be going quite well.
I think, honestly, the mini blocks, the player head sized blocks, are actually a really good go-between for vanilla Minecraft to the furniture stuff that you've got going on here, even though it's only a data pack, or like if you consider like the modded furniture stuff that is out there. If you just plop that into vanilla Minecraft without anything else around it, it does tend to feel a little bit out of place with the overall aesthetic. But I think the mini block player heads are a really good go-between for that, because it adds something else at that sub-block detail level that we always talk about here on the show that provides a bit more context to it, and it creates this sense of life where if you've got tables and chairs, you can more easily imagine that there would be small objects scattered around, knickknacks and tchotchkes and plates and food lying on the countertops and that kind of thing. And if you just had the furniture mod, it would still feel kind of lifeless, but it just feels kind of lifeless with furniture. Whereas I think you've got a really great balance here of the mini blocks and a few more of those sub-block details, especially in these smaller spaces, that really complement the vibe, I think. That and your armor stand work. You've obviously got candles up on some of the signs out in the street scene, but you've also got bread on a table that's clearly done by an armor stand, and like bows hanging from the wall, and that kind of like it's a rack on the wall kind of setup. And I think those details really help the furniture stuff blend in. So as somebody who's so used to vanilla Minecraft, it doesn't stand out to me as abnormal looking at any of these screenshots.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I like the armor stand work as well. The bows and the hooks that they're on, I think it's either tripwire hooks or maybe levers. Mm-hmm. And everything is still vanilla texture. So the only thing you're doing differently is placing something in the world in a way that you can't in vanilla Minecraft. It's still a thing in the game. Like the bow is the thing that you hold. Like it looks very similar to if you see another player in the world and they're holding a bow, it looks just like that.
Yeah.
And the lever is just on the wall in an up position, and then you can hang something on it with the armor stand, and then you make the armor stand vanish, and it just looks like something is floating there. And I've done that a number of places as well. Like sometimes I don't have the mini block. Like the way that the mini blocks used to be made was you had to collect them from the Wandering Trader. Now you can craft them in the new version of the mini block data pack. You can just put them into the stone cutter and get the mini block version, which is brilliant. But previously, for something like having a salmon fish head on the table and then having a quartz ore block from the nether on the table that looks like kind of fish guts and bones, I had to put one of them on an armor stand as a head, make it a mini armor stand, and then put that in place because I didn't have access like that. The RNG on that quartz ore block did not come up when dealing with the Wandering Trader, but now I don't have to do that, so things could be a little bit more simple. But what I like so much about the like the minutia of the armor stand stuff is that in a situation like an inn or a pub where there's a fireplace, you can take something like a shovel and lean it up against the fireplace, and it looks like either something that would be used to shovel coal, or even a hoe looks like a fireplace poker. If you use an iron hoe, it looks like the kind of thing that you might jab into a fireplace to move a log around. And then you've got mini blocks for logs next to campfires that are extinguished, which again, it's a vanilla block, but it's like a vanilla like it's all textured very well too. And I have to give my a tip of the hat to the textures on the tables and chairs data pack, is that in some cases there are some very detailed chairs, but the ones that I am using, the base chairs and the base tables, are all based on the 16 by 16 vanilla pixel construction. Mm-hmm. So they all feel like they make sense in the world. They don't feel like they're too detailed for Minecraft. Legs in the tables are 2 pixels wide. Same with the tabletop, 2 pixels deep. Chairs, same thing. Like the legs are 2 pixels wide, the base of the chair, and all the textures are like the same as what you would expect. So a oak table has the same texture as an oak plank block. So it really all kind of works together. So it doesn't feel like you're too outside of the box on it. Tables and Chairs 2 is available as a mod, but it's also the one that I'm using as a data pack, because I felt that would be easier to update on my own and bring forward rather than waiting for someone to update a mod. I could just update this to a version whenever it's needed. And there are some things coming. This is still in beta. And I noticed in the Tables and Chairs Discord that there's easier placement on items on tables coming. There's shift placing chairs to avoid connections, because you can connect chairs to make it look like a bench. And then there's also smarter chair movement. Although I would say the chair movement is already pretty good. I put out a little TikTok video about like how easy it is to manipulate the chairs. It's like shift right click and it spins a chair, and then shift left click and it nudges a chair by half a block. So like turn it around, tuck it underneath a table, pull it out from a table. Like it's very straightforward. You can catch on immediately and very quickly be able to kind of decorate your stuff on the inside with tables and chairs.
That's such a smart approach. It's so tactile and intuitive. I think that's a really neat one. We are not straying too much into data pack territory on Misadventures, but we do have some custom player heads that are sold by the NPCs. So I'll probably end up using a couple of things like that. There are some really neat ones that look like those wall-mounted bird houses that you can get that I think will be perfect on my Sky Pirate roost. And one of the things I wanted to do this week was maybe put a couple of coral fans up there with an item frame and like a bone block, or if I can find some like chicken eggs or even prismarine crystals, I think look really good for this. If you want the smaller kind of like robin's egg blue kind of eggs, is that you can combine those to look like a nest that's got some eggs left in it. So that's something I'm going to be adding in as like a little sub-block detail on my Sky Pirate building here and there. Still a little bit of stuff to do, but it's looking like a productive week ahead for both of us.
Speaking of production, there is quite a lot to get through in the news, so we'll move into talking about the Vibrant test flight. This article was published on Minecraft.net on April 2nd. The article introduces happy ghasts and vibrant visuals to Bedrock Edition Preview. You can try out all the new gameplay features revealed at Minecraft Live, including happy ghasts, ghastling, dried ghast block, and the ghast harness. The article also reinforces the process of collecting a dried ghast and getting it to a rideable happy ghast. You create a test realm to try Bedrock Preview's features in multiplayer. Vibrant visuals are also available for testing in the Bedrock Preview. Clouds appear infinite, water reflects, and the sun casts shadows. Vibrant visuals will release initially on select Bedrock Edition devices, with plans for release on Java Edition in the future. Vibrant visuals in Bedrock Edition Preview is currently available on the following platforms. For Android, Adreno 640, Mali G68, Mali G77, or Xclipse 530 or higher. For iOS, A12 or M1 or higher. And on PC, running Minecraft on DX12. Minecraft Bedrock Edition Preview 1.21.80.25 was released on April 3rd. And this enables the features that we just mentioned in Bedrock Edition with a lot of details. You can enable the Drop to 2025 experimental toggle to test out the new features. This, of course, includes the dried ghast, which can be found in the nether, in nether fossil structures. It can be crafted with 1 bone block and 8 ghast tiers. When waterlogged, it undergoes 3 states over about 20 minutes until it spawns a ghastling mob. It makes sounds and shows particles depending on the state. If mined during the waterlogging, it will revert to its dry state, regardless of what state it had reached during the waterlogging. and it will revert states back to its initial dry state when it is taken away from being waterlogged under the same timescale. The Ghastling is a young version of the Happy Ghast mob. It spawns from a dried Ghast block that has continuously been waterlogged for about 20 minutes. After spawning the Ghastling, it will try and follow the players within 16 blocks, or an adult, non-aquatic passive mob, and some neutral mobs within 16 blocks. If no player or suitable mob is close around the Ghastling, it will idle around 32 blocks from its home position where it spawned or was last interacted with. Ghastlings can be tempted and fed with snowballs. It will grow up into a Happy Ghast after about 20 minutes or faster if fed by snowballs. Ghastlings can also be summoned using a command. The Happy Ghast is a new flying mount that can carry up to 4 players. It spawns from a Ghastling after about 20 minutes or faster if Ghastlings are fed with snowballs, and can be equipped with a harness and then mounted by up to 4 players. The Happy Ghast is tempted by snowballs and the harness. The harness tempting only works if the Happy Ghast is unharnessed. It has no panic behavior when taking damage. It cannot be bred. And it slowly regenerates health, with regeneration speeding up during the rain and snow, or when flying at the same height as clouds are rendered. The first player that mounts the Happy Ghast will control it, sitting in the front of the Happy Ghast just above the face. When a player mounts, the goggles on the Happy Ghast go down to cover its eyes, indicating that it can now be controlled. Other players who mount after the pilot are mounted and placed in slots on each side of the Happy Ghast, starting clockwise from the pilot player. Pressing crouch buttons dismounts the player on top of the Happy Ghast. If the Happy Ghast detects a player on top of it, it then ceases all movement and aligns to the closest cardinal horizontal direction. This happens regardless of it having a harness equipped or not. The third-person camera is moved back when the player is mounted on the Happy Ghast. When there are no players on the Happy Ghast or walking on the Happy Ghast, the goggles go up and the Happy Ghast starts to roam around its home position. If players dismount midair, the Happy Ghast will descend towards the ground before it resumes roaming. The Happy Ghast cannot enter boats. It idles within 64 blocks from its home position, defined as where it spawned or where it was last interacted with. If wearing a harness, the Happy Ghast idles closer to home position within 32 blocks. The Happy Ghast will try and stay close to blocks when roaming on its own. There is a known issue with the Happy Ghast. Its health is currently set to 40, and it will be reduced to 20 on the next update. The harness is a new item that can be equipped with a Happy Ghast to allow players to ride it. It's crafted with 3 leather, 2 glass blocks, and 1 wool block. The harness will have the same color as the wool block used when crafting. The harness can be redyed after crafting. Only 1 harness can be equipped on a Happy Ghast, and the harness allows up to 4 players to mount the Happy Ghast, and it can be removed from the Happy Ghast using shears, but only when no players are mounted. Vibrant visuals, as we mentioned, are available in this beta preview. Players can enable vibrant visuals with a toggle in the experimental tab in the Create New World or Edit World scenes. This will allow the vibrant visuals as an option in the in-game video settings. There are presets for choosing between favor visuals or favor performance available in the video settings, and special features and visual settings can be adjusted by expanding the vibrant visuals options. There are some known issues with vibrant visuals. Some visual corruptions may exist on certain Android devices. Surface deeper than 8 blocks underwater are dark. Light might also leak to underground areas, or shadows may pop in and around near cave entrances. Metallic surfaces might appear with some visual bugs. Emissive surfaces might not glow or appear white in certain conditions, and custom block icons are currently not rendering. There are other changes and bug fixes in the Bedrock preview. To review the full list, visit the Minecraft.net changelog linked in our show notes at thespawnchunks.com.
In case you somehow weren't aware of this, the Minecraft movie is out now. We'll have a link to the Minecraft.net article about that. The movie officially released in theaters on April 4th, 2025, and it went on to have a huge opening weekend. A Variety article has been shared around various places. I found it from the Minecraft Reddit, but it says, a Minecraft movie shatters box office expectations with a record-breaking $157 million opening weekend. We'll have a link to the Variety.com article in our show notes. The movie was projected expected to gross $90 million at most, but instead it took in the biggest domestic debut of the year so far, domestic in the United States, and the best in history for a video game adaptation. The movie was made for a $150 million budget, not counting marketing expenses, but had grossed over $300 million worldwide as of the publication of this Variety article on Sunday, April 6th. 2023's The Super Mario Bros. Movie previously held the largest start for a video game adaptation at $146 million in its opening weekend. At the time of this recording, the movie holds a 47% critic score on RottenTomatoes.com, but an 87% audience score. In other news, the Craft Mine update was released on Minecraft.net, published on April 1st, 2025, so no surprises, this is the April Fool's offering from this year. The Minecraft team has transformed Minecraft into a sort of roguelike format with craftable custom dimensions. Initially restricted in what they can do from their inventory, players can earn experience both in the usual way and from completing a level by bringing anything they can scavenge to an exit portal that takes you back to a hub world. Experience can then be spent on leveling up your character and unlocking abilities beyond typical survival Minecraft, like the ability to 3x3 craft in your inventory, double jump and later triple jump and beyond, and earn extra loot drops. Along the way, players find new ingredients to add into the levels they craft at this world hub, and can also level up the Minecrafter to expand what's possible to add to a world. The Craft Mine update, like other versions of Minecraft, is still available to play through the Minecraft Java launcher, so don't worry if you missed out on this on April 1st, it is still available to play if you own Minecraft Java Edition.
So I did not have any time at all to jump into the Craft Mine update. So have you messed around with this at all?
I did an hour of it on stream and was ready for it to fully consume my life for the next week. So I will be doing more of it. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I had a great time with a couple of the previous April Fools. With One Block at a Time especially, I spent a full week in that because it felt like a familiar game engine being used to do some incredibly different stuff. This is maybe slightly closer to what standard Minecraft is, but the format is different, and I think that the interesting thing for me was that it even touches on a couple of aspects we've discussed on the show recently, like a skill tree, for example. The progression is still available through advancements, but there is a tree that allows you to upgrade the player's abilities, and it starts with your inventory completely locked off. You can't even craft in your 2x2, but the game will give you an automatic crafter and a lever to use it, and that's how you have to craft stuff at the beginning. But you can make a crafting table that way, and once you've earned XP through the usual ways, like if you create a pickaxe and you start mining coal, the XP you get from that will allow you to enable 2x2 crafting in your inventory, and you can slowly unlock all of your inventory slots from there. And there's a bunch of upgrades beyond that that take it past the abilities that are available to you in traditional survival Minecraft. But there are also, there's a GUI effectively for crafting custom dimensions here instead of requiring you to learn and code data packs. And there's, a few other bits and pieces in there. I think it's mostly interesting for an experience of using the XP system for something other than enchanting and repairs. Like, this is the leveling system that we talked about on a previous episode of the show, I think based on some listener email that we received. So I'm going to be playing it this week. I will bring it back next week to talk about in more of like a roundtable discussion if we have one, because it has the potential to be a really playable April Fool's update. I thought the potato update was, a fun gimmick in a way, but it wouldn't be something that I would want a permanent experience of. It was fun to just goof around and see what features they'd kind of hacked in for that, whereas this feels more like a cohesive experience, I suppose. So I'm looking forward to exploring it some more.
I'm looking forward to exploring the vibrant visuals. I didn't log in myself. I was kind of hoping that one of the platforms that it would be available on would be the Xbox, because I would argue that my Xbox might have better graphic capability than my gaming PC. But it looks like I can use the gaming PC to check out the vibrant visuals. But I did see some other creators put out some videos, and I was a little surprised. And now this could be a settings thing, because I don't know how they had theirs set up, but they feel a little overexposed compared to what we saw on screen at Minecraft Live, really high on the white balance. And that surprised me, because I thought, well, if you're going to start rolling this out to beta preview, I thought that it was going to be for performance tracking, like is it crashing for people? You would think that visually it would be at least ready for the platforms that they would be slowly rolling it out for. But it seemed to be a different experience, especially because when you're watching someone that's doing content creation for YouTube, they're probably using a pretty beefy PC. And so it found it strange that the release of the vibrant visuals didn't quite look like what we saw at Minecraft Live. I do really like the shadows. The pixel shadows are fantastic. I think it really cements the things in the world, especially like you just mentioned, sub-block stuff like fences and fence gates, any kind of thing that would cast a shadow, or a shadow pattern specifically, not just like a single block, but like something that has like some negative space to it within the model, I think is really helpful when looking at the shadows and the player as well. I think it was Exumavoid's video that I was watching, and as he was explaining it, he was walking around looking down at the ground as his shadow going back and forth. And it was really cool, and it felt very part of the Minecraft world. And so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also thinking like there are shaders out there for Java, some better than others. A lot of them are heavy on performance. I'm wondering if Java shader authors are going to be patient enough for this to come to Java, or if there's going to be some shaders that are going to mimic what Vibrant Visuals is doing. Because one of the things that's really grabbing about Vibrant Visuals, in addition to the shadows, is the way that water reflects in like a pixelated pattern. Again, like everything's pixel aligned. So one of the things that I don't like about Minecraft shaders is when they make water look too realistic. It feels very out of place next to a 16 by 16 pixel grass block. And so if the shader has an option to leave the Minecraft texture on the water, even if it looks a little bit more glossy like water, if it still retains that 16 by 16 pixel texture that water has, I think it matches better. Because I'm okay with Minecraft looking like a Pixar world. Like I like the lighting and I like the shadows, but I want it to look like a cartoon. I don't want it to look like real life, because I think it fights too much with itself when it does that. And so I'm very curious to see if the reflections and refractions of light along water surfaces, as well as reflective blocks, which I said I think were kind of buggy at the moment, as well, and pixelated text shadows. I'm really hoping that Java authors for shaders can get that into the game sooner than later, even if it's just something that you can mess around with for fun while you're waiting for Vibrant Visuals to come out, because then people could kind of maybe plan ahead. Like you're doing all these builds now, it would be not great if you realize, oh, I should have built this differently, knowing that Vibrant Visuals and how they were going to look in Java. So I think it would be cool if we can get some, community, support for some Vibrant Visuals like shaders, because I'd be down for testing those out for sure.
I think the thing that excites me about Vibrant Visuals is they've described it as a new visual direction for Minecraft, and it's being developed internally by Mojang. And so the thing about that is a system they can expand going forward. RTX was developed in collaboration with NVIDIA, and a lot of people lamented the fact that RTX wasn't really properly supported by the game. But if they're announcing this at Minecraft Live and not as a collaboration with an external company, if it's all being developed in-house, then that means they have plans to support this for the foreseeable future. It's a part of vanilla Minecraft now, especially if it's coming to both Bedrock Edition and Java Edition. So I am very curious to see what feedback they take from this into the community, if they're doing that in the same way that they're taking feedback about new features like the armadillo, how that was shaped by player feedback a lot, and Wolf Armor, and a lot of the stuff that's been introduced recently, even bundles. If they decide to take the same amount of player feedback into account with Vibrant Visuals, we could get this tweaked to the point where either players have a lot more internal control over it through settings and sliders, or just players can give input on which blocks look too shiny and what's kind of causing a little bit of visual friction for them, and we could see this looking phenomenal based on a bit more player input. Because players really know what they want from shaders, judging by the Java Edition community being out there. There's a lot of variation out there, but people have really refined the visual look of Minecraft for themselves already. Now with the Mojang team doing that too, it's a very exciting time.
And I would argue that some Java shaders are too complex and really hard to dial them in. It takes a lot of time and kind of research and trial and error to kind of get them to where you want them. So I think that the Vibrant Visuals from Minecraft will more than likely be a simplified version and still hopefully add some options, but it'll be less overwhelming than Java shaders right now.
Yeah, I still haven't dipped into look at the Happy Ghast or Vibrant Visuals on my own PC yet. I'm kind of waiting for the Happy Ghast to show up in Java Edition before I really look into that, because I find that judging everything based on how it controls in Bedrock Edition hasn't historically been the best for me. Like, I find that Bedrock has a little bit of input lag on the systems that I play it on, and so I think for how maneuverable the Happy Ghast is going to feel and what kind of feedback I can give, I think it's best for me to wait for the Java Edition release, because I primarily play that. And vibrant visuals aren't coming to Java Edition for a while. They've clarified that they are going to be doing this for Bedrock primarily, and then Java Edition is going to be considered after that. But I think I can wait, or maybe I'll dip in just to take a couple of screenshots, look at some stuff, give some preliminary feedback. But I think a lot of people will be very interested in trying it out. I've already seen some really great feedback from people who've been playing on PlayStation consoles and can get access to this version of the preview. And yeah, people are very excited about this. So I think it's really positive the way that they've announced it, the way that they're hoping to get feedback from this. I think it's a really interesting time to see this kind of stuff come to Bedrock Edition at last.
We got some good details about the Happy Ghast from this preview as well. Things like it's taking around 20 minutes to go from a Ghastling to a Happy Ghast, even if you don't feed it snowballs. So we were wondering during the Minecraft Live presentation, and even last week, like, how do you know to feed it snowballs? Like, how does that actually work? And you don't have to. It just speeds things up if you know that tip.
Yeah.
And so we're not quite sure yet, because they didn't announce any advancements or anything like that in this preview. So we'll have to see how that shapes up. But it's good to know that it'll just happen eventually, just like crops growing, that kind of stuff, which is cool. I like the details that they added about, like, if you disturb the dried ghast while it's being rehydrated, then it will reset back to 0. So, like, set it and forget it. Don't move it, and don't remove the water, because it'll slowly start to revert if you remove the water as well. So yeah, I guess that's to say, like, if you set it around and then a creeper comes up and blows things up, like, you got to make sure that you rehydrate your Happy Ghast quickly. Otherwise, you might end up having to start over again. And I think 20 minutes is okay. I don't think it would be good if it was longer than that. I kind of think it could be shorter, but I don't know. I guess you want it to be something that feels worth it in the end. I liked also the details about the Ghast movement and the fact that it reorients itself to a horizontal axis if you dismount from piloting it around. So if you're kind of on like a 30-degree angle and you get off to walk around to the back, it'll kind of like shift itself to be square to probably one of the block faces that you're working at, which I think is good. I was surprised that players mount it in a clockwise position, that you can't choose where you sit. Because if it's just you and I on a Ghast, maybe we want to ride facing backwards. Like, maybe you want to face the front and I want to face the back.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're building something, or I guess building doesn't matter because you're going to get off and walk around. But I guess that if we were doing something and you were showing off when your builds, let's say on a multiplayer server, and your build was on the left, but I mount the Happy Ghast, it puts me on the right with no choice other than walking around on the back of it. And when you walk around to the back of it, it's like a moving platform. Like, you have to move on it or it will move away from under you and you'll fall. So if you want to sit on it and go along for the ride, then you can't choose what side you sit on, which I think is strange. I kind of feel like you could walk up to the Happy Ghast as the second player to mount it and right click on the side that you want to sit on and then sit there. I think that would make more sense than like automatically putting people in clockwise. It feels odd in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they could figure out a system similar to how they implemented it with chiseled bookshelves, where you can actually look at which slot of the bookshelf you want to place stuff in, I think it should be relatively easy for players to manually do that. Like, if manual dexterity isn't necessarily a concern when the Ghast is like 3 blocks wide, right? Like, I think it's easy enough to be able to target a specific zone of the Ghast to sit on. So I hope they're able to figure that part out, because I agree. I think having the player mounted on the back is potentially sort of like the way players mount the camel, where the driver is facing forward and the person sat further back is effectively the other 180 degrees of their range of movement, of their range of vision. I think it'd be better for minigames that way. Having a 2-player team on a Ghast, but then one of them is 12 o'clock and one of them is 3 o'clock doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So yeah, would really be interested in seeing if they implement that in a better way. I'm sure they've already received feedback to that extent anyway, but yeah, I'm curious to see how that works out. The other thing I've seen people do, which is one of the cartoonishly crueler things that you've seen in Minecraft, is people using the dried Ghast as a redstone clock, as basically a 5-minute timer. So every time it basically rehydrates a stage before it hatches into a Ghastling, You can use that because it's a block. You can use that with an observer to detect a block state change. And so if the Ghast gets slightly happier, you can use a dispenser to retract the water again, and it'll just do that on a timer every 5 minutes. And it's again, the cartoonishly cruel on the level of like people using allays burning in a campfire to generate silverfish for their XP farms, or keeping villagers in a 1x1 box and using them as like a trading resource. Like, it's that level of Minecraft cruelty where we know that nothing is actually happening to any of this, but it just seems, given the lore of the world and everything, like a little bit harsh on the existence of this poor little blocky creature. But either way, I think it's really interesting to see the life cycle of the Ghast being implemented like this, and I'm sure once Happy Ghasts arrive in Java Edition, I'll have a chance to dive in and give everybody my full thoughts.
Yeah, I'm curious to see them in game as well, especially in the Java snapshots. And I think that there's just something a little bit more accessible about the Java snapshots too. There seems to be more people that dive under the hood and see how the code works, and so that you can get a little bit more information about how to do things. And I wasn't aware about the dried Ghast timer. That's pretty funny. I'm wondering what other things, like we've got a lot of pathing information now about the Happy Ghast. Like, it sticks to a certain radius depending on whether it's got an animal to attach to or a player to attach to. And I'm wondering like what could be done with that, and because these aren't done as far as a feature, what other things might come in the Java snapshots over the next few weeks as we explore. Like, a lot of animals that we've talked about in the past have like enemies, or they have things that they're attracted to or afraid of in the game. And if the Happy Ghast runs from natural ghasts or the nether ghasts, like what happens if you put them in the same space? Like, can you control one or the other? Like, can you use a Happy Ghast in a ghast farm to like attract the bad ghasts to a trap or something? Like, I'm wondering like what else could be done with them in terms of some of the technical players that, when they dive into this stuff in Java snapshots, come up with some wild things that you and I don't normally like think of firsthand on the show.
Yeah, I'm slightly worried about the homing behavior that they have, because they clearly designate an area as their home and they can drift a certain distance from it and then they come back. But then, like bees, we have the problem of what happens if those chunks unload? What happens if it decides to wander off a little bit too far, or it is forced too far? Does it still retain the same property? Does it like fly off into unloaded chunks and reset that home position later? Like, I want to make sure that these things are going to be reliable if I'm planning on using them to build up in the sky. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, we have some great listener email about the vibrant visuals, which I'd love to get to reading. If you'd like to email the show, the email address is spawnchunkmail@gmail.com. Keep the emails short and sweet if you can, because that really helps us include them in the show. This first one comes from the creatively named Snuggly Boo Bear, and they have the subject of vibrant visuals lighting. Hi, Joel and Pix. I watched your stream of the Minecraft live event and loved it. During the vibrant visuals segment, I immediately wondered if this feature could be the first step to blocks that cast instead of emit light in Minecraft. It seems like having a more modern but consistent way of handling light and shadows across platforms would be a necessary first step, and might open the way for blocks to cast light and color, like in RTX. The visuals they showed varied a fair amount in glow provided by things like torches, but they also said it was the start of a long journey. What are your thoughts? Love the podcast and the various things you do. Thanks for being your delightful selves. The snuggliest of the Boo Bears was slain trying to hug an iron golem after he heard they were big softies.
If these lighting effects are coming to Minecraft, I imagine it will have to come with a decent amount of settings to enable and or disable them in video settings for performance reasons. And I think, unfortunately, because Minecraft is played on so many different devices, specifically Bedrock, I think that's probably going to restrict how bold Mojang gets with the vibrant visuals. They still look pretty good, like, don't get me wrong. But I think that some of the things that people experienced in RTX, I think you should set your expectations to not include that. I think if we get anything close to that, it would be a bonus. Again, for all the reasons that Jonny pointed out, that that was a very specific partnership with NVIDIA and RTX, and it wasn't really supported going forward. So I don't know how much of that kind of thing will be in vibrant visuals. It would be nice if they did their own version, like if it was something pixelated, like if torches cast a pixelated light on the wall, similar to how they cast a pixelated shadow. That would be kind of interesting. But when it comes to Java Edition, I think there's two bottlenecks. One, because of the amount of installs of Bedrock and the different platforms, I think Bedrock is going to lead the charge on vibrant visuals and therefore dictate what is going to be capable. They don't want to have more vibrant visual capabilities on Java than Bedrock. I would imagine they would want it to be an equal playing field. But then I think, true to some of the things we've heard in the past, just Java Edition as a platform, because it's Java, might be restrictive in terms of what might come to Java. So there might be more and better vibrant visuals on Bedrock Edition. And when it does come to Java, it might be restricted just because it's an older platform.
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. I think the other thing about this email, going back to the casting light idea, is having directional light rather than something that's emissive. I think it's also trying to differentiate that this is a visual overhaul for Minecraft, not a mechanical one. And they were quite clear that this was just going to be a visual overhaul, not change the way light works in terms of preventing mob spawns and that kind of thing. And I think what you end up with if you have something casting light is the impression that light behaves in different ways than what it does on the back end. And how is that supported by the vanilla graphics if you have vibrant visuals able to do that, right? So I think we need to be slightly wary of, being able to limit the range in which light is emitted, because suddenly that changes a bit about functionality as well. I think there's some situations in which it can work with vanilla mechanics, like putting blocks all the way around like a sea lantern or a torch or whatever, and have it just illuminate a cone in front of it is possible. But you've got to make sure that the Vibrant Visuals version of that matches up well enough with the vanilla graphics version of that players aren't misled into thinking it's mechanically different. This is the same reason that we don't have dynamic lighting or like emissive stuff from the glow squid, for example, is because stuff like that has to be updated dynamically behind the scenes, which means a lot of data has to shift around in the process. And also, they don't want to mislead players into thinking that that stuff is changing the way mob spawning works, for example.
Right, and I think that when you have something like a squid, or I think more recently the eye blossoms in a forest, they don't add light to them, but what they do is they code them so that they're unaffected by shadow, or they're unaffected by the nighttime, so that they don't dim when it's nighttime. They remain their vibrant selves as they would in the day. So they look like they're glowing by comparison to the rest of the world, but they're actually not.
Yeah.
And I think that that's more than likely how they would at least start the approach on things like this, where if it gives the impression that it's glowing visually, great, but like you said, retain the functionality in the game for lighting, for mob spotting and things like that. But it would be cool to see if they can do it. I would like to see something like that with say like furnaces or campfires or that kind of stuff would be nice. Especially blocks that have some sort of animation or sound. I feel like adding some sort of lighting effect to them would also kind of like, again, like double down on the interactivity. And if we can get something like that, that could be kind of fun, because then players, like we were talking earlier about like technical players, like you could light furnaces briefly or unlight them, not for any kind of like function in the game, but for like visual effect. In the same way that Redstone players will set observers to set off redstone lamps in a certain sequence to make numbers or patterns or things like that. I think it could be kind of fun to do that with other blocks if the light was going to be visible from them. So we'll have to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it's still got huge potential, and I think the sky's the limit as hardware gets better and like more powerful hardware is more commonly in circulation. So like, who knows? We'll see where this all goes. But like I said, the fact that it's a permanent part of Mojang's vision for Minecraft going forward is the most exciting aspect of it to me, because it means that none of this stuff is, on a long enough timescale, none of it is off the table.
Yeah. Moving into the main discussion, which is going to be about a Minecraft movie. And we will keep this spoiler free. Jonny has not seen the movie yet. I went out and saw it with a couple of server mates on Friday night. And I definitely had some thoughts. And surprisingly, it's not what I went in expecting to feel coming out. If you look back at the conversations we've had on the show about the trailers and our reactions to the trailers, as well as the public's reaction to the trailers, I actually came out feeling the opposite of how the trailers made me feel in some aspects. But I want to touch on something first, and that is my experience in the theater, which unfortunately did color a bit of how I was handling the movie and my emotional reaction to it. I have never experienced this amount of disruption in a theater in my life. I've seen a lot of movies, and I was in what I thought was going to be a quiet screening at 9:20 on a Friday night, thinking there's probably going to be less kids, less disruption, moms and dads taking the small ones out to the bathroom break, stuff like that. Not that I was going to be too worried about that, but I thought, well, we'll go. We're all adults. We'll just go to a late show. Jonny, I forgot about teenagers.
Yeah,
and
it's a rookie mistake. I'm
yeah,
sorry to say
as
it.
someone that doesn't have kids, I didn't clock it. I did not think. And even then, it's like, all right, well, fine. Like, again, a lot of our audience is older. Like, we have a wide range of people that listen to the show. There's a wide range of people that play Minecraft. You and I know a lot of adults that play Minecraft. And I was expecting movie theater behavior. And really, even in Canada, like even the difference in Canada versus the US, like I've only ever been in one or two movie theaters where in a good way, something has happened on screen and people have cheered. Like take Avengers Endgame, for example. There's a couple of moments that have got like meme-worthy videos online of like Captain America doing something and everybody losing their minds in the theater, or Spider-Man coming back, that kind of stuff. And I've been in theaters like that and it was fun. But this was more than that. There was more food in the air, drink canisters in the air being thrown around than I've seen at like a high school graduation when people throw their hats.
Yeah.
It was impossible. And not one person was targeted. The target was the entire theater. And it was not just one group of teens, like one group of 5 or 6 kids being disruptive. It was the entire theater. So once we realized this, we were just like, this is organized. Like this is something that is happening in more places, we found out later. I've actually done a little bit of research since. In some places, there were police called. The movie was stopped, and they had to try to issue warnings. In some of those videos, the teenagers didn't care. But what was happening more in hours at the first was that the crowd was reacting to the movie with cheers, which is fine. But it wasn't at funny moments. It wasn't at like surprises. It wasn't at like the creeper explosion that we see in the trailer. It wasn't anything like that. What was going on was the trailer had been memorized by the people in attendance. And every time there was a moment, usually like a Jack Blackism, like I am Steve or I yearn for the mines, then the entire theater would erupt in a way that just didn't make sense with the joke or the moment on screen. Like it would be like a minute long of not being able to see or hear what was going on for the ruckus that was happening in the theater. And was I missing any plot heavy or deep character dialogue? No, because it's a fairly simple movie. You could really catch up with what was going on, but you might have missed an Easter egg, a joke, a Minecraft reference, because you just can't hear. And so it was all orchestrated and timed. And every time a moment from the trailer happened, this happened exactly the same. And it was unfortunately really disruptive. So I want to pass this along to any of our viewers. If you're a parent that has kids that are going out to see the Minecraft movie, if you are taking your young kids out to see a Minecraft movie, you might want to check with the theater ahead of time to see if they've experienced this and what they're doing to handle it. You might want to see if there's been times where it's not been as bad. I'm guessing that if you're taking the family and you're going on a Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock, it's probably not going to be as bad as what I experienced at 9 p.m. But I feel like, especially because I witnessed someone a couple of rows in front of us, it was a mom and her son. He looked to be about 7 or 10, and he was in shock. I'm assuming he was hit by food. I was hit by a water bottle, a Pringles can, and rained on by hard candies. And there was water in the water bottle enough to make it a decent projectile. But thankfully, because we're civilized, Jonny, the lid was still on.
Right, yeah.
But I can only imagine the feeling of a parent if your kid got hit by something like that. Like, that's not what this mom wanted. This mom wanted to take her 9 or 10-year-old out to see the movies and have a fun night. It was past his bedtime. So like it was a special night, and it was ruined by these people that were out there, as you've mentioned, I think previously, to see the movie ironically and make fun of it and ruin the experience for people. I've seen a number of threads on Reddit I'm not the only one. It's happening around, theaters for this specific movie. I have not really figured out why. Like, I don't know what the reason is, whether it's a TikTok trend, whether it was somebody that suggested, or somehow it's caught on, but it's definitely organized. And if you're going to go see the movie, just try to be respectful of other people. There are people that actually want to enjoy it, or people like me that want to go see what it's going to be like and maybe review it on a podcast. And what I really wish would be more commonplace would be theaters taking control of situations like this. Like, it could have been a situation where they turned off the movie, they addressed the situation. In some cases, like I said, the police were called in, not in my theater. But I will say right now that this was at the local Cineplex in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. It was a 9:20 show on Friday night, April 4th. So if you're listening to this and you went to it, reach out and let me know what your experience was. And if you are a parent of a teenager that went to it, reach out and let me know what you heard went on, because I'd be very curious to see how much of this stuff is actually making it into the news or making it home, in terms of what's going on, because we saw a number of like SUVs all outside picking up a lot of the kids that were in this theater with us, which means they were all under driving age. And it was most likely an older brother or sister or mom and dad coming to pick them up. So the parents were not there in the theaters with these people. And I hope that for people that are going to go and see the film, especially if you're taking your kids, that you can find a way to call ahead, figure out whether you can have a good experience, and hopefully enjoy it. Because we do have an email that I'm going to read, which is a family review of the Minecraft movie, which I think is how, and I hope it lands with a lot of people. Like, I hope this experience is kind of what people get out of the Minecraft movie. And this is from John K., a Minecraft movie family review. Hi, Pix and Joel. My wife and I just saw a Minecraft movie with our two kids who are 8 and 4. Here's our review. I'll try to be brief. Our 8-year-old probably enjoyed the movie the most, which wasn't unexpected because he is the target demographic. We watch a lot of movies together as a family, and at the end of each film, we all say our favorite parts. He couldn't pick just one. He loved it all. Our 4-year-old liked it as well. It held her attention through the whole thing, which is all we could ask for as parents. There were a few parts where it was maybe a little scary, but there weren't many issues. She's just starting to play the game herself and has seen all of the mobs in creative gameplay, but the animation style of the movie made it a little bit more intense. Her favorite part was the whole thing as well, but not the scary parts. And the second end credit scene was also a favorite. My wife and I started playing Minecraft about a year ago when our son started playing, so our perspectives may be different than someone who has been playing a lot longer. Overall, we enjoyed the movie. We didn't expect to see cinematic marvel, and we laughed a lot, as well as other adults in the theater. Personally, I thought the flying scene between Black and Momoa was hysterical. There were some things that we could have done without, such as the villager Jennifer Coolidge bit, but it didn't seem to add anything to the movie. If it did, it was lost on me. Although the very quick, subtle cameo by Jeb was nice. Thank you guys for all that you do. So, teeny tiny little spoiler, but I think a lot of people in our community will start to recognize some of the cameos in the movie. So some of the fun stuff for me was definitely things like seeing Jeb, seeing a few others. I don't want to get into too much spoilers, but you should definitely look for maybe your favorite Minecraft creator, maybe a nod to your favorite Minecraft creator, either visually or with a joke. And certainly if you know the faces of some of the developers, then in some of the scenes where there might be an extra, a non-speaking role, in the case of Jeb, it's a waiter where he brings, we've seen, I think the clip in the trailer of Jennifer Coolidge and this villager nitwit having like dinner together in the trailer. Jeb's the waiter. Nice. And so like he brings the food over and stuff like that. Everybody else in the theater was lost on, but like Alistair and Steven and I were just like, hey, yeah. I've seen that person before. So that stuff was really, really fun. And so avoiding any spoilers, because I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I think the surprising thing for me was just how long it took to get going.
Right.
There's this real fight between the movie feels like it's written for kids. It's written for short attention spans. It feels like a string of memes and silly scenes kind of stuck together. but then it takes 30 or 40 minutes before it even gets into Minecraft. Like there's a prologue from Jack Black that's really long, a lot of exposition to kind of set things up. But then after that, you're into the real world, trying to figure out who the garbage man is and who Henry and Emily are, and like all this kind of stuff. So it's weird. And it's weird in a quirky way, and it's pretty funny. There's some pretty good acting from the kid that plays Henry in terms of like meeting these very strange adults, and kind of like the looks on his face are pretty priceless sometimes. But it does take a long time before you're actually seeing what we see in the trailer, which is the 4 human characters in Minecraft world, in the overworld, doing things, interacting with villagers and piglins and all this kind of stuff. And it takes a while for that to kind of get going. So I was really surprised at that. And unfortunately, because it's so meme-like, because it's so choppy, it's very hard to follow as a story. Like I don't know that there's much I can spoil, because there's so many side stories or subplots that just don't get resolved. Like they're just forgotten about. And the throughput for the main characters is pretty weak. And so you're trying to follow things, and then halfway through you're just like, all right, I'm just going to stop trying to figure out what's going on, because I don't know that I'm going to get that information. And then you just kind of go with like, okay, well, this is, here are some main themes. What's happening in the overworld in the Minecraft world is a lot easier to follow. There's an evil force of piglins that are trying to take over the overworld, and it's the job of our heroes and some of their friends that they make along the way to stop them. So that's pretty straightforward. Like it's, insert most children action movies here, Spy Kids, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that part was unsurprising. Like I kind of knew it was going to be like that. But it could have been better. I feel like they could have written a little bit, not older, but I think if they respected the audience a little bit more, that it could have gone better that way. However, the visuals, like, because of the consistency, like, yes, it's weird. It's weird to see this fleshy, blocky sheep. It's weird to see piglins. It's weird to see them talk. There's a couple of actors that are voice acting some of the piglins, but it is so consistent when you're in the Minecraft world. So when you're in the overworld or in the Nether, everything is consistently weird. And because of that, it's really immersive. Like, you just get lost. You forget about all the other stuff. It's more engaging than the human characters, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So when you're in the Minecraft world and you're stuck on like Jack Black or Jason Momoa doing a speech, you're just like, could these guys stop talking so we could see more of what's going on in Minecraft? Like, you get more pulled. And that could just be my interest in Minecraft and my affinity for it. Like, really getting a lot of like, oh, so that's how they interpreted that. Interesting. Oh, so there's that reference, or funny little gags, the chicken cooker, like stuff like that. There's more of that than we've seen in the trailer. Too many to list, because it does kind of go on to like gag after gag after gag. The zombies are funny in a way that I wasn't expecting. The trailer really makes them look very serious, but a lot of the sound effects from the film are from the game.
Right, yeah.
So when you're fighting a zombie with his own arm, which is weird and a little there's not graphic violence so much, but like it's cartoony violence. But when you're fighting the zombie and he falls over, he makes that bleh sound that they do in the game, which you don't expect from this, because of course all the people are making real noises. Like when they hit the ground, they grunt, or there's all this, after dialogue, that ADR stuff they would have had to record. And the acting is fairly realistic in terms of how they react to this stuff. Sure. But then the way that the villagers don't have any speaking roles. They honk, right? They raise their eyebrows and maybe smile or not smile or nod their head. But like, it's difficult, right?
I think it's interesting that the piglins talk, but the villagers don't. But I think it makes sense, considering that the majority of the scenes with the real life actors are going to be around the villagers and not so around the piglins. But you still have to understand the piglins' motivation, since they're the villains, right? Like that does make sense to me. But I can see why the visual style is speaking to people while the plot is not. I mean, if there really isn't much of a plot, it's a theme park ride. Like, that's ultimately what I sort of expected this movie to be. Is it's like a stylish way to spend an hour and 40 minutes, I think is the full runtime of it, in the Minecraft world, getting up to hijinks, sort of in a way simulating the experience that players of Minecraft have, because Minecraft itself doesn't have a storyline for you to follow. So I'm not super surprised that the movie doesn't either. even the fact that it's called a Minecraft movie seems kind of nondescript as to the action of what might be happening. So it sort of feels like one of those adventures that you would have loading up the game and playing, rather than an adventure that's been scripted to happen for you. And in that way, I wonder if maybe when they were pitching this, it didn't, like, the notion of it having a plot was less important, so that they didn't mislead people who might be interested in playing Minecraft after having watched the movie into assuming that the game would have a story. So, I mean, that's a very generous read on it, I'll grant you. It may be that they just didn't really feel like they could write a story that would coherently fit into the world, but I do kind of wonder if some of it was shaped by the player experience of Minecraft and the fact that the world being a sandbox means that the movie itself becomes a sandbox.
And I think that's what they were trying to get across in some ways, but I feel like film can benefit more from a little bit more of a through line,
a structure.
I think that, yeah. The fact that it was so weak on those things, I think, was a detriment. I feel like they could run a little bit farther with it as a film and still maintain the sandbox creation side of it, because the overall moral is still fine. Like the two kids in the film, the parents are no longer around, so Emma, I can't remember the character's name, is the battling between being an older sister and being the main caregiver for Henry. And Henry's like almost old enough to take care of himself too, so like there's a little bit of like brother sister fighting that happens in that way. But the overall message is like, don't let the adults or the overworld, or not the overworld, don't let the adults or the real world stifle your creativity. Like, that's part of who you are. You should keep that. It's what makes you cool, not what makes you odd, is basically the message, which is what I think we kind of clocked before with the trailers. And Henry, as you know, we've mentioned before from, I think, reading a synopsis, is someone that is a bit of an inventor, a bit of an artist. And the movie is really quirky, even in the real world. Like, it has that like retro 80s kind of like Napoleon Dynamite vibe, which is not surprising because Jared Hess directed Napoleon Dynamite. But like, Henry builds a jetpack as one of the early kind of failures and one of the reasons he's made fun of at school. But it's like, it's a working jetpack that this 10-year-old makes.
Yeah.
Like, so like it's got that kind of odd like Spy Kids vibe to it. But then later on, like, they explain, you know, in the wrap up, they explain like how everybody kind of like took what they learned on their adventure in the overworld and has been applying it in their lives in the real world, and everybody's happier for it. So the idea is that like, go and have an adventure and then go out in the real world and apply your newfound skills. So in a way, like, it's not even suggesting like you should just be playing Minecraft and be trapped in this world all the time. Being in the overworld is never thought of as, we should stay here, it's better than the real world. It's the whole plot of the movie is like, we have to get home. Like, this place is weird, we need to go. And so it was interesting to say, like, even the overworld, which is kind of relatively peaceful until the piglins show up, is not regarded as a good place to hang out, because like, it gets dark every 20 minutes, which was a funny joke in the movie. It's like, did that happen quick for anybody else? And to see like the fights between like the skeletons and the zombies and all that kind of stuff was cool, but they paint it as a hostile environment. They lean into the survival aspect of Minecraft more than they do the sandbox aspect of Minecraft. But to go back to what I was saying about Henry with the inventing, we saw in the trailer where they use items from Minecraft and they make something in the game. I think the nunchuck buckets is what the gag was in the trailer. And Henry starts to do that, but he starts to use things that he had in his backpack, like a 9-volt battery and a couple of other things, and combines that with things in Minecraft and comes up with a couple of different inventions. And he is the one that's kind of solving how to stop the piglins, because he's coming up with these out of the box ideas in Minecraft with real world items. And even Steve, Jack Black's character, was like, I never even thought about doing that.
So he's hacking is what he's doing. Is the message I'm getting from that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Jack Black's character, Steve, is, I mean, he is what we've seen in the trailer. I mean, I have to, even though it wasn't my flavor, I have to tip my hat. He has that energy the entire movie. Like, that must have made for long filming days. Yeah. But yeah, it's, he's very much a rule follower within the Minecraft world. So like, he's there to communicate to you, the audience, the rules and what can and cannot be done, and where things are. He's the guy that knows where the crystal is and where the orb is, and it's in a woodland mansion, and like he's the one that knows how to get there because he's been there for so long. And so he's kind of like the guide, but he and Jason Momoa are in it for the whole thing. It's not like you were suspecting that maybe Jack Black might send them on their way. No, he's the companion with them the whole time.
Right.
Very similar to, if you remember the humor from, I guess it was Endgame, when Thor and Quill from Guardians of the Galaxy are constantly vying for who's the leader of the ship.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's the Jason Momoa Jack Black dynamic. Like they're both trying to be the leader when really they're both adult children, and Emily and Henry are really the more level-headed of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit strange in that way. And if anything, you'd want more dialogue from the Minecraft characters and less from the humans. Like I would want more from the kids and more from the female characters. Unfortunately, the two female characters are really underused. So there's some funny moments, but I feel like there could have been a lot more done with them as well.
Yeah, I think that's a shame, really. I'm kind of surprised to hear that the kids' storyline is sort of fairly bare bones. Like I thought the Jason Momoa, Jack Black casting was going to be mostly for balance because they're recognizable figures for parents who might want to come and see the show with their kids. But yeah, the reviews from what I've seen as well seem to be about what I expected. The kind of like, this is family fun. It's not going to win any Oscars. It's something for parents to take their kids to. And I think that might be one of the things contributing to its box office success, besides the people who are going to go and see it like for the meme, is the fact that it's a movie to take the whole family to, and therefore you're getting like, you know, an entire group of 4 or more people going to see the movie all at once, and that's bums on seats. You know, that's a decent amount of take for a movie. Whereas like I don't go to see movies on my own all that much, but it's usually just me and my partner. We don't have like a ton of people that we typically go to the theater with. So
right,
yeah, I'm I guess hopeful that more could come out of it in a way. Like, do you expect the success of this is going to lead to a sequel? Do you think there's room in the format, whether with these characters or other characters, for them to make a follow-up, like a second Minecraft movie?
Again, without spoilers, they absolutely left it open for a sequel. I would encourage everybody to stay until the credits are completely finished. There's a during credit scene with Coleridge, and then there's another post-credit scene that I won't spoil.
Okay.
But worth sitting around and waiting for that if you're someone that's interested in that kind of thing. And I would say the success of it is probably going to breed more Minecraft projects. I don't know if they're going to be feature films. I'd be very curious to see, despite a giant box office weekend, if the second weekend and subsequent weeks also live up to that, and whether it continues on that road. I'm sure there's going to be a strong first week because there's going to be families that just, you know, had soccer practice and just couldn't get out to see it this weekend. Or maybe Timmy's birthday is like 2 weeks from now and you're going to go see the Minecraft movie then. I don't know. But I would imagine at some point the tail will be short rather than long. But for perspective, like 157 million is a lot. The last Star Wars film, Rise of Skywalker, premiered on a weekend with 200 million. So like, that's close, you know, and those are probably two of the, you know, that's one of the biggest movie franchises ever. And so to have the Minecraft movie come up that high is good. And as John K wrote in and mentioned, like the whole family enjoyed it. So I think that when you, have kids that are going to like it, it's going to increase your enjoyment of it. I think that if you are someone that has kids and have seen a lot of these movies, you're going to go in with a much better idea of what to expect compared to someone like me who doesn't have kids and doesn't normally watch these kind of films. So I feel like that's a more of a solid review from John K and family for our listeners that are, you know, in that demographic and are wondering about the film. I think that I'm surprised actually that the 4-year-old wasn't more scared, because there are some. Again, it's not violent, but it's scary lighting. It's a lot of running. It's a lot of screaming. A lot of adults are genuinely terrified. Like the acting is pretty good with the zombies and the skeletons and stuff.
It's what the ratings board would call cartoon peril, right? Like, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's a spot when a zombie gets a hold of a sheep that's a little bit interesting. Where like even the audience of Teenage Riffraff was like, "Whoa,
okay,
what's going on?"
Yeah.
So there's some stuff there that was a little bit strange, and there's a lot of what I would say like manufactured chase scenes where like there's a giant thing chasing you and neither one of the people being chased are moving all that fast compared to the animation of this thing that's covering ground and it's this massive thing. And then you cut back to like, it hasn't gotten any closer to them.
Yeah,
so like,
right.
It's not that scary. It's not like Jurassic Park where things are like really close to getting people. Like the zombies get close to the people, but they're really slow and they're really dumb. So like it's kind of easy to circumnavigate once you get over the cartoonish screams from Jason Momoa. And I've got her name wrong a couple times. It's Natalie is the character's name, and Emma Myers is the actor's name. And once they calm down and you get past the "this is so weird" moment, then the human characters start to deal with all this stuff a little bit easier. If anything, it's a little bit quick. Like all of a sudden, they're very used to being chased by zombies and piglins, and they're not fazed by it because they've got to try to get home. But yeah, it's something that I think will appeal for the families out there. I think are going to probably enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go and see it this week. I will be tactically choosing my screening based on your advice. But movie-going audiences in the UK are a little bit less rowdy. We tend to be a reserved population. I've been in like one screening where people clapped, and it was one of those marathon all 5 of the Marvel movies before the first Avengers movie came out kind of thing. So like that was that felt like an event more than I don't know. Maybe this does feel like an event to people. I am slightly worried that it's become one of those things like when the 2019 Cats movie came out and people were already doing like sing-along screenings of it by like a week in because it had become this sort of hysterical event for people because of how weird people found it. It is also the Easter holiday break from school right now for the next 2 weeks here in the UK, so I'm pretty much guaranteed whenever I go to be attending a screening with a lot of kids. But I think the idea of going to a screening with parents who are there with their younger kids might actually be
100%.
a better thing, because then there's going to be somebody keeping those kids under control and so forth. But yeah, either way, I'll probably be going by myself or with my partner, and I will report back in a purely academic sense. I think I'm going to see it at this point because yeah, I imagine I'll have a similar reaction to you. I'll just be sort of along for the ride and not think much of the story either way. But for folks listening to this or watching this on YouTube, maybe we'll come back with a more spoiler-filled review once I've seen it. So maybe stay tuned for that and be warned if you're not going to be able to get to see it for a couple of weeks. For now, at least, that's where we're going to wrap up this episode of The Spawn Chunks. Thank you so much for listening. You can find more information about the show and some of the stuff that we've talked about today over at our website, thespawnchunks.com. The music for the show is composed by me. The Spawn Chunks is proud to be a listener-supported podcast. If you're getting some value out of the show, consider putting some value back in. You can do that at patreon.com/thespawnchunks. Pledging at any level there gets you an invite to our patrons-only Discord chat. You can listen live when we record the show every Monday. We also have monthly hangouts where you can let us know what you've been up to in Minecraft that month, similar to the quick login that Joel and I do at the beginning of every show. We currently have 280 patrons according to our Patreon page. They might be processing things a little differently around this time of the month. This is our first full month that we've been on the subscription model that we changed to at the start of the year, so bear that in mind. Last week's Patreon count was 294, so something has changed in that number, and we would obviously love to welcome more people on board. Special thanks go out to our content engineer patrons. That's Hunter555, Jumbo Sale, Mindtrip Media, Party Voyager, and Yitz. Thank you all for your support on this episode.
Sharing the podcast with your friends is the easiest way to support the show. You can find us at The Spawn Chunks on all the social media that matters. New episodes are available on Mondays on all of the favorite podcasting platforms, and a video version, of course, is on YouTube. You can contact the show at spawnchunkmail@gmail.com. Let us know about your Minecraft movie experience. The RSS feed is linked on thespawnchunks.com, and the Patreon-only RSS feed is on the Patreon page. That's where you can listen to the render distance, the extended version of the program.
My name is Jonny, but I'm not a guy by Pixelriffs. You can find most of what I do at youtube.com/Pixelriffs, where the Minecraft Survival Guide is currently in its 3rd season. Misadventures SMP has begun, and I'll probably be spending the entire week playing the Craft Mine update. I also stream 3 days a week on Twitch, where you can find me playing Minecraft and other games besides. I'm the voice of the unofficial Hermitcraft recap, which you can find through a quick search on YouTube. And aside from that, I'm at Pixelriffs on both Blue Sky and Instagram. Joel, where can people find you online?
Everything that I'm doing online is at joelduggan.com. That includes a link to the Citadel Cafe, my podcast about sci-fi and fantasy entertainment. We'll have a new episode recording this Thursday. We're going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again, and Stephen was with me for the Minecraft movie, so we might get into some spoilers there on that show if you can't wait till next week here on the Spawn Chunks. I also stream on Twitch at Joel Duggan. I'm very easy to find on social media. It's the same pretty much everywhere. And I will be doing more Satisfactory play as well as Minecraft this week. Satisfactory updated last week to 1.1. There's lots of new content. We're moving along there. And of course, I'm hoping to update the Citadel to 1.21.5 this week as well.
Thanks for visiting the Spawn Chunks. The world outside is 60 million blocks wide, but the movie is only 100 minutes long.